Welcome to day 60. Six miles done on the river path. Time for a coffee, which is good because I parked at a coffee shop. Okay, I have to figure out how to hold this for all the questions I'm about to answer. Today's been a pretty mellow day. Got my run in and just got a massage. So happy about that. So hoping my legs will feel amazing tomorrow. Probably going to refrain from doing anything more today. Maybe a walk, but I don't know. I don't know if I want to get in the car again or if I want to do anything. Maybe I could just rest. Anyways, I got a request to answer lots of questions because I know a lot of you were stuck in the snow on your treadmill. So got several questions to answer on this vlog, and hopefully I can do it without rambling too much. Okay, question number 1. Are you treating this like a normal 100-mile race? Or are you trying anything specific to further goals? I mean, aside from the whole running a sub 3-hour marathon 6 days prior part. So the gist of it is yes and no. The difference, I'm not doing anything concretely different, like changing my fueling plan. Like that's all normal 100-mile stuff. I think the lack of rest is a big one, and like the recovery one will be different. And in race, it's probably going to come down to a mental shift and like how I approach it and like how aggressive I am in running. It's very much going to be about running to my plan, which is obviously informed by further, and running in a way that I foresee myself running it further. So running stupidly easy, or what feels like stupidly easy, and not like pushing the pace. So that's more of my intention, because I need to practice running in such a way that I can, I'm running strong, but I'm not breaking down. So that might mean like taking more walk breaks or running an easier effort that I might if this were a standalone race or an A race. Will you have pacers at further? Can you tell us how long the loops are there? I guess this is a good opportunity in regards to that. It's like I don't have crew or pacers for this weekend. So I am practicing, being completely self-motivated. And that is because at further we can't have pacers. I mean, I'll have crew and I will see them, since it's a loop, every just a small handful of miles. So that will help, and there'll be other runners on the course, but no pacers. It would be glorious if we could have pacers, but in order for this to be record eligible, pacers are not allowed. When you don't have crew and pacers, how do you set yourself up for aid station success to be quick and efficient without extra hands? And what kind of mental strategies help in the late miles when you're on your own? I generally, especially since I've done several races in which I don't necessarily know my crew, or, I race a lot, so I can't always have people there. I generally have my needs like distilled down to like very specific things. So like with this, it's a loop course. So the way that I'm going to set myself up is that there will be a bag with the precise anticipated needs for the upcoming loop. So I brought like a different hydration, like my whole setup. So it's like I will just take everything off, put that in the bag, take everything new, put that on me and go. That will just help with efficiency. I'm always pretty efficient at aid stations, but that's because I pre-plan what I'm going to need and what I'm going to be taking. And so as long as things are relatively in range of what I anticipate, then I have all those needs. And I'll obviously have backups of things and, kind of things for if we have to go to plan B, C, D, whatever, right? But like, I generally just try to make sure that I have everything I need ready to go all in one place. I can just pull it out and go, and I don't dawdle. And there's no like, oh, I think I need this many gels. It's like, no, everything's packed. I pull the hydration pack out, I put it on, I go. In the later laps, it'll have my headlamp or things like that, sleeves, gloves, that kind of thing, so that those things are already in order and I don't have to think. Mental strategies, late miles when you're on your own. I mean, it moderately terrifies me to not have a pacer, since I've never finished a 100-miler that I didn't have a pacer. But that's not because of getting to later miles and dropping out. It was because I had problems and didn't even get to the later miles to figure out. But, with the longer, like 100K, like a grindstone and stuff, the mental strategy that I use, even if I do have pacers, is to chunk up the race in like mentally digestible blocks. So I think with this race, it's looking at it like first 2 loops, I don't have music. Middle, like the next 2 loops, I have music. And then the last loop, when it's getting dark, no music, just in my own space, so that I kind of have this flow of different things that I'm looking forward to. Also, just having a clear idea of what success looks like, I think helps you get through those later miles. And whether that's, something that you have a mantra, or you're like, I'm focused on this and all I'm focused on is this thought or whatever, like it helps. And I also think that you have to be aware that when you're out there by yourself and you don't have anybody to talk to, you might convince yourself of some pretty crazy things. So it's also utilizing the people that are around and like making friends with other crews or other runners or people at the aid stations, so that when you are in those dark moments, you don't just suffer alone. You be like, hey, aid station people that I've seen a bunch of times, or hey, random crew, can you guys give me a boost? And like get people on your side so that you can utilize that support and that cheering, so that you don't just get in your own dark, twisty place. If you can, tell us about your shoes. What kind of shoes do you prefer for a runnable 100? Do you change shoes? And if so, change the type of shoe. Runnable 100s, generally, if I know the course enough to know that it has no technical bits and like is a pretty good surface, I will actually wear road shoes. At Javelina and Umstead, I wore the New Balance More Foam road shoe. At High Lonesome, I wore the same shoe, but the trail version. I won't be wearing that this weekend, in part because the new version, they ruined it. So I will be wearing a trail shoe this weekend. The Nike Ultrafly is my primary shoe. Part of the reason I'm going with that, and then I have the Saucony Rift as a backup, is because I don't actually know how technical this terrain is. I don't know if there's switchbacks or like if I'm going to need a lot of grip. And so the Ultrafly is not like a super duper technical shoe. So I think it's good for a runnable course, but at least it has some grip just in case there are some bits that need a bit more grip. Generally, I do not change shoes unless there's a problem or unless the course dictates it. And with this, it's loops. So I assume that if the Nikes work on one loop, they will work on all loops. I just try to keep everything that's happy moving along. If I need to change shoes because something becomes unhappy, blisters or whatever, then I will definitely have those available, just like with socks and everything, but I don't anticipate changing my shoes. how long does it take you to recover from 100 miles, like the initial phase of walking with a swagger, foggy brain, weird appetite, etc.? Generally, 4 or 5 days. I usually do nothing for 4 or 5 days. It depends on the goal, depends on if I come off with like any injuries, if it was an A race. There's a lot of factors that influence that. Trying to think of a race that when I did Western States in 2016, I was pretty trashed, but actually it's generally things like blisters or toenail issues, which is what happened in 2016, that kind of prolong that. So in 2016, I ended up having to have my big toenail removed at urgent care because I got a really bad blister under my toenail, and that got infected and yada, yada, yada. So like that recovery took longer, but generally a couple days. In this case, the goal here is to actually not focus on recovery and actually focus on the information gathering of like run on Saturday, hopefully get done sometime in the night, earlier the better, get up on Sunday morning and like go move and see if I can get my body moving again after running 100 miles, because I'm going to need to do that day after day further. So this is an opportunity for me to gather that information, and that's my goal. So I will be doing gentle movement, but like I will be doing more movement than I normally would after 100. Obviously, I will continue to focus on recovery because I need to recover from this. There's only 7 weeks left until further as of today. So that was one of the questions. How many weeks remain? 7 weeks. So yeah, it varies, but usually a week I start feeling pretty normal and all the weird appetite, foggy brain, random need for naps goes away. If you finish on Saturday night, Sunday morning, when do you travel home? What do you recommend in terms of time between finishing that kind of big distance and traveling? This is one of those do as I say, not as I do. Generally, especially if I'm by myself, I travel home as early as possible after a race. I like to say I'm not a stayer. Like I would cross the finish line, get in my car, and be on the plane immediately, which I have done with some races in the past. Literally, sorry for those people who were on the plane with me. I generally, if it's a Saturday race, fly home on Sunday. That is really bad for your recovery. For me, it's super painful. And like, I get really swollen legs, everything tightens up. It's not great. But it's also the reality for most people is that you have to get home. The recommended time, if you could, if somebody could just take me from further and dump me on a beach somewhere, in Hawaii or Mexico, that would be I'd have to travel to those places, but you know what I mean? If I could just go somewhere and run a race and then relax, that would be more ideal. If you could do a race in a destination where then you want to stay and hang out, it's probably better. I just generally end up going home right away. So that's the reality. I think just being cognizant of wearing compression, moving around, hydrating, all those kind of things are really important. Legs up the wall, done a lot of those in the airport to try to mitigate all of that sitting. I am not planning on flying home until Wednesday. I'm supposed to come back here to Tucson to do that post-100 training, but we will see how things go and if I decide to stay or not. Last question. Do you have any other races or big training efforts planned before further? Currently, I'm signed up for Black Canyon, but we're going to see how Saturday goes before I make that decision. After running the marathon and kind of feeling like I didn't have a ton of speed, obviously 100K on the trail and a road marathon are nothing alike. But it's it's hard to go into a race that you're not trained for. And Black Canyon is supposed to be it's going to be very competitive. And so it's like, yes, I could focus on running my own race and doing my own thing, but it will also take a lot of mental energy to focus on my own thing and like not race. So I am going to try to figure that one out. I think it's also like really does matter about how quickly I recover from this. I won't do Black Canyon if I don't recover well, because Black Canyon's only 3 weeks away. I think it'll be 3 weeks. Yeah. So just being mindful of that, right? Like these efforts aren't the goal. And so I don't want to do those unless they are going to serve the purpose of providing a training boost. So there you have it. Lots of questions. Love your questions. Keep asking questions. Sorry that last video was so up close. You really don't need to see my face this close. But there it is. Not re-recording 8 minutes versus 8 minutes of me rambling. Had my massage. I'm going to do my Go WOD and some athletes for yoga so I can just keep the body moving a little bit, and then it will be dinner time. Okay, mobility, yoga, all that good stuff is done. So it's taco time. Got ground bison, which I love. Got my, I feel like this is unsponsored advertisement for Siete Foods, which I also love. Oh wait, one more. There we go. I just love that all of their stuff is gluten-free. They have grain-free options. Like this is done with avocado oil. So all good stuff. Going to make myself some tacos. I have my security blanket hat on, even though it's not cold at all, but makes me feel it's like my blankie. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed all the questions. I'm done talking to myself for the evening, and have a great evening. I won't say go pet a dog. That's the Kelty O'Connor thing. Go snuggle your baby mini donkey.